Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another video here on Freewheel Photos. Today we are going to do a quick edit of a photo that I took many years ago, but I wanted to show you how I work inside of DxO Photolab 8 to kind of enhance my images and get them polished enough for me to publish and share on social media and things of that sort. Now, if you want to pick up DxO Photolab or any other DxO product and support this channel at the same time, consider using the link in the description box below. It is an affiliate link and I greatly appreciate everyone who uses it. Now, let's jump into today's video. Here we are inside of Photolab 8, and you can see I already have some adjustments going here. I'm going to go over them and really tweak some of these as well. But the first one is going to be the DxO Smart Lighting. Now I'm going to go spot weighted on this one and see if this helps me at all. So let's click this tool and I am going to draw my spot. I should probably bring this up to about here and maybe shrink it, something like so. So I want to tell DxO, hey, this is the area I want you to assess, and then make things brighter or darker based off of what this spot looks like. And because the animal is sitting in shadow, I want to make sure that I am bringing up as much as I possibly can. And that'll probably be a local adjustment, but I think overall this looks pretty good. Let's turn on the before and after to compare. And you can just see how much shadow detail I am recovering from this image. Now this is a raw file, but look at how much shadow detail I'm getting back. So I really appreciate the way that this works inside of DxO Photolab 8. So the next thing that we'll probably work with is the clear view. Let me just pull this up, and I like how it kind of contrasts the entire image. I really do enjoy using that. The next thing that I would probably do with this image is click on the crop tool, make this a 5:4 crop like so, and then maybe even bring this down and in, take away some of the head space or whatnot, like there, and then putting him more on this right third. I think that you give him room to look into the image, and that looks the best. So we'll go ahead and hit close, and I like where we're going so far with this image. I really do. So now what I want to do is maybe, I don't think I need anything to do with the tone curve. So let's jump over to color. Now, this was taken with my Nikon D5200, which has the color profile that I do appreciate. So I'm not going to do anything with the color and rendering as far as changing that. But what I will do is come over here to the HSL. Let's see if adding in some vibrancy to the image does anything that is fun for the overall look. And maybe I'll just pull down on the saturation. Now, another way of editing colors in an image, and what I have found to be really fun to do, is to come into each of the channels inside of the HSL and just remove the saturation. So just bear with me as I do this. Okay, so now that I have all of the color out of the image, I can slowly reintroduce the saturation of each of these color channels and see how I build up that color palette overall inside of the photo. So I'm just going to pull up on the reds until I start to see some color come back into the image. And if you can't see it, you can just increase it all the way, and you can see where those colors are actually impacting the photo. So I'm just going to pull this back because those colors aren't very important. They're not in areas where I'm like, yeah, I really want the colors there. So I think that a lower saturation level for those colors works out fine. Now we'll come over to the oranges and we'll pull this up to the right. Again, the oversaturated areas, those aren't places that I really want to see color. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that back down. And I don't want it to be black and white, so I will pull the color. I'll leave some of the color in there, but I don't need a whole lot of it, maybe not even that much. So we'll come over to the yellows. Again, I'm going to pull this all the way up, and that's more of like a halo effect that's happening. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that to the left here, until that kind of gets faded. And you can see none of these colors are impacting my main subject here. So that's why I want those colors to be a little bit more muted. Let's go to the greens and see what happens. I know that there's some greens in this image. So now we're starting to get some of the color down here. There's some green up there, and we may need to deal with that with a local adjustment. So let's just go ahead and pull the greens down just a little bit as well. And now we'll get into the blues, and we're just going to do the same thing. And who knew that there was so much blue in the grass? So with that, I don't really care for the blue in the grass. So I want to move my blues over towards the greens. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this little marker here and start to shift the blues ever so slightly towards the greens. So that way I get a little bit more green instead of blue look in the overall image, because I don't really need that. Now, again, I'm having that issue up here in the sky, and I say blues, I really meant cyan. Hopefully in the blue channel, that's where most of the sky is. So I'll probably heavily saturate that, but that's also where my subject is located. So there's like a blue color cast on him. So I don't want that. We'll take away some of the saturation, but what I want to do is brighten this up. So now he also gets that brightening effect. And you can see how I'm starting to really gather my colors in the image overall. And the purple channel, let's see where the purples are. I'm just going to oversaturate it so they really stand out. And it looks like it's more so in these leaves. And I don't think it's really hurting anything. Yeah, it's like down here in these leaves. I don't think it's hurting anything for this to be up high, so I'll leave that where it is. And then we'll come over to our, I guess this would be magenta. We'll pull this up, oversaturate it just to see where everything is. And it looks like it's all still in the leaves, maybe back here in the background. So we'll pull that down to about there. And I think that that's probably a good practice. So let's go ahead and turn on the before and after so we can see the slider. You can see I really brought back detail in the main subject here. And I like where the colors are now with this overall image, especially since this gives me the opportunity, if I wanted to, I can now throw a LUT on here. So let's go ahead and turn this off. We'll turn on the LUT. We can hit, oh, let's see if there's some, we'll go with premium, or you know what, we'll go with standard. So we'll hit standard, and now I can really like stylize this image the way that I want to. And I haven't, you know, I didn't pre-script any of this, so I don't know if I even like these LUTs. I never really play around with these, but because I have built my own color palette, I now have control over what happens with these colors. So let's say I like this particular LUT. All I have to do now is pull down on the opacity a little bit, and then it'll blend with the original image. And I think that this looks pretty good. So if I turn off the LUT and wait for the render and then turn it back on, it just softens up the image a little bit more, transforms those colors into something that's a little bit more unique, but also realistic. We're not looking at something that you would be like, man, I have no idea what I'm looking at, and that's unrealistic. But what I would do is probably come back over here to the Clear View Plus and increase that a little bit over the entire image. I think that that just helps with the contrast and the overall punch in the image. The next step, or the next option, I guess you could say, that I would probably do in this image is work with the film pack options. Now, there's a lot of options here inside of the film pack. One of those being the filter, and I'd probably go with something that's yellow, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, I think yellow could work. And then I would just pull down on the density. And I like where this is going with the image overall. Maybe pull it down a little bit more, just so that way I'm making sure that I'm getting something that looks relatively appropriate for what I'm trying to shoot or what I'm trying to gather here. And maybe I would throw some grain in here, but I'm not going to do that today. One of the things that I'll do next is just brighten up the main subject here. And the way that I want to do that is just by grabbing a brush here, and I'll make my brush size a little bit larger. And I'm just going to paint all the way over the subject here. And there are other ways of making selections inside of DxO. But what I find is for subjects like this, where I'm going to do a relatively simple adjustment, this just works the best for selecting the areas that I really want to work in. So I'm going to make this brush a little bit smaller, come around this way. And I'm not going to, it doesn't need to be perfect for what I'm doing, or at least I don't think it does. Your work may require something a little bit more precise, but that's good enough for what I'm about to do. So I'm going to hit close. That way it hides the overlay. And then I'm just going to increase the shadows here and see what that does for the overall image, right? Because it got a little bit darker when I started adding in other things to the image, but hopefully, yeah. So that came out the way that I would expect it to. I'll throw in a little bit of micro contrast and a little bit of sharpening. And I think that that's going to get us where we're trying to go, or at least get me where I'm trying to go with this overall look of the image. Let's wait for the correction to show up. Yeah, I like what this is doing. Here is the before and after side by side. You can take a look and see exactly what I was able to do with Photolab 8. Now, if you want to pick up a copy of Photolab 8 or any other DxO software and help this channel at the same time, consider using the link in the description box below. I get a small commission, and I greatly appreciate everyone who supports the channel in that way. If you want to learn more about DxO software and watch videos on it, then click the playlist that's on the screen now. And until next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.